Governments regularly outline massive economic visions for the distant future. We hear the sweeping goals of a developed India by 2047, complete with trillion-dollar budget targets and high-level policy announcements drafted in capital cities. But at the ground level, massive policies rarely survive the descent intact. A worker standing at a rural intersection doesn't experience a national policy. They experience the immediate, localized friction of finding a daily wage. Passing along or announcing a massive infrastructure budget means nothing on its own. Unless there is a literal, localized delivery mechanism, those resources never actually make it into people's hands. We can understand India's current socio-economic challenges as a massive systems engineering problem. The national economy is a network of pipes, and right now, those pipes are leaking human potential at every junction.
This infographic maps the failure points. 47% of youth are unemployed, sidelining 2.35 crore people. The pressure cascades. A 93% startup failure rate stifles innovation. Without local jobs, 8 crore citizens are forced into distress migration to urban centers every year. The National Employment and Entrepreneurship Development Mission acts as a rigid architectural blueprint, engineered specifically to patch this localized plumbing. To stop the systemic bleed of talent and capital, economic policy has to transition from abstract national rhetoric into hard physical infrastructure. This framework illustrates the top-level solution to that execution failure, a strategic public-private collaboration. By splitting the burden of national development, the system avoids relying on a single, overwhelmed point of failure. The government's specific role is highly focused. They provide the broad policy framework, the heavy infrastructure development, and the necessary baseline financial support to get the engine running. Meanwhile, the private ecosystem acts as the execution arm. They handle the complex, fast-moving parts, deploying AI infrastructure, scaling startup ecosystems, and running training programs. Crucially, grassroots organizations are layered in to build community trust and handle social inclusion. The government provides the economic canvas and the easel. The private sector and local NGOs actually apply the paint. Zooming down from that national framework, we reach the fundamental cellular unit of the policy. This 3D layout visualizes the one district development model, a physical, localized cluster of skill and enterprise hubs dropped directly into rural landscapes. This diagram breaks down the internal mechanics of that model. It contains 6 specific functional units working together to trigger local economic activity. Instead of expecting citizens to travel to distant tech hubs, units like the Digital Skill Center and the AI Innovation Lab intercept the 65% workforce skill gap right in the citizen's own neighborhood. Once that local talent is trained, the Startup Support Cell and the Rural Employment Cell are designed to immediately absorb them. They anchor the talent locally, actively eliminating the economic pressure that forces distress migration. Impact is generated by building an autonomous assembly line of opportunity and placing it where the people already live.
Historical government programs often share a fatal flaw. They collapse the exact moment public tax funding dries up. This circular chart maps out a mechanism designed to prevent that collapse, the self-sustaining economic engine. It is built to transition the policy from government-dependent to completely self-funding by year 4. The district engines are structured to generate their own internal revenue. They operate software-as-a-service digital platforms, charge MSME consulting fees, and provide paid training certifications to local businesses. A government policy achieves permanent impact strictly when it is engineered to survive without the government. Massive national rollouts carry enormous risk. Before scaling, the theoretical plumbing has to be tested against real-world friction. This proposal document outlines the Pune pilot district. It operates as a 12-month microcosm explicitly set up to validate the model and refine the performance metrics before attempting nationwide replication. The pilot requires strict, measurable outcomes to prove success. Within 1 year, the blueprint must physically create 5,000 employment opportunities and fully develop 500 entrepreneurs in the region. You cannot rebuild a nation of 1.4 billion people without first proving you can successfully rebuild a single district. Once the model is validated in Pune, the strategy moves to a phased expansion. This allows the system to standardize tools and hubs while adjusting for regional friction points before attempting national scale. This roadmap tracks that expansion. Moving from the Phase 1 pilot, the infrastructure expands to full state coverage in year 2, activates a multi-state network in year 3 and achieves pan-India integration by year 5 as the model reaches maturity. The mathematical endgame of this 5-year timeline is the activation of hubs across 725 districts, triggering a revenue cycle that supports over 10 lakh direct economic opportunities. Impact doesn't come from a capital city's decree. It happens when 700 individual districts adopt a validated blueprint to rebuild their own local economies from the ground up. Massive national rollouts carry enormous risk. Before scaling, the theoretical plumbing has to be tested against real-world friction. This document outlines the Pune pilot district. It operates as a 12-month microcosm to validate the model and refine metrics before nationwide replication. The pilot requires strict outcomes. Within 1 year, it must physically create 5,000 employment opportunities and fully develop 500 entrepreneurs. You cannot rebuild a nation of 1.4 billion people without first proving you can successfully rebuild a single district. Once the model is validated in Pune, the strategy moves to a phased expansion. This allows the system to standardize tools and hubs while adjusting for regional friction points before attempting national scale. This roadmap tracks the phased expansion. From the Phase 1 pilot, infrastructure expands to full state coverage in year 2, multi-state in year 3, and pan-India by year 5. The endgame activates hubs across 725 districts, supporting over 10 lakh direct economic opportunities. Impact doesn't come from a capital city's decree. It happens when 700 individual districts adopt a validated blueprint to rebuild their own local economies from the ground up.